Okay, now I'm going to do something that absolutely terrifies me. I don't think any other president in the history of this club has given Bob Rosner 40 plus or minus minutes of unfettered access to the podium. I mean, we've really got a great program, but you past presidents know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's have a warm Rotary welcome for Bob Rosner.
Thank you, Tom. General, Beth. First, I have the honor of introducing to you Lieutenant General Richard Mills, Commander, Marine Forces Reserve and Marine Forces North, who I'll talk to first. General, why don't you come to the mic? Anyone who drives around Seattle sees Marine Week everywhere, and I didn't realize it's 238 years of community, country, and corps. Can you tell us what we need to know about Marine Week, please?
Well, first of all, let me thank the city of Seattle for its great welcome to the Marines that are here. I had a chance to walk around last night, and I saw some Marines out there on Liberty, all whom seem to be behaving themselves. We did put a little pot of money aside at headquarters in case we needed some more bail, but I think we're okay. Again, thank you to the entire city for that wonderful welcome, and especially here to the Rotarians who have again set up this luncheon, a chance for us to talk, to meet some local leadership, to meet some local VIPs, and be able to tell you what it is the Marine Corps is doing these days. 238 years of history. I think you're all aware of that. I talked to some veterans out here in the audience. We have some people whose fathers served at some epic battles as Iwo Jima. We have others who served during Vietnam. We are very proud of our heritage, but I think the Marine Corps today is also very proud of where it's headed. We're coming off of over 12 years of war in Afghanistan and in Iraq. We're coming off with our heads held high. We accomplished our mission. Our Marines performed as Marines have always performed, with gallantry, with bravery, and great courage. But we're looking at a great future for the Marine Corps as well. We are remodernizing, we are re-equipping ourselves with new aircraft and weapon systems. And once again, Marines are forward deployed on board Navy ships as part of that blue-green team all over the world. Wherever there's a crisis, and there's a number of them today in the world, I can assure you that not far from that crisis site, Marines and sailors are standing by, ready to be called into action if our country needs them. So I would tell you that while we look over our shoulders with great pride, we're looking down the road with equal pride, because we know that when the country calls, your blue-green team, the Marines and the Navy, will be ready to respond.
General, Carl, could you go up stage and join him for a second? Yeah. I'm told there is Carl, go up there for a second. I'm told there's a traditional Marine greeting, and I'd like to ask you two gentlemen to kind of lead the crowd in that, just to make everyone feel welcome here.
Everybody has their own lingo. Every profession has certain words that are key to it, and when you say to it, someone in that profession knows what you're saying. The Marines have one word which covers a whole spectrum of activities. All right. Any questions? Hoorah to the no, go away. Hoorah to the Marines means everything from hey, you need to polish your brass a little bit brighter, to a good job, to just a greeting between warriors as they pass each other. There's not really a definition that I can think of. It's somehow inherent in the Marine system from the moment a Marine steps on the yellow footprints at boot camp until the day that the flag is draped over his coffin at a national cemetery. The word hoorah just means something to Marines. And it's not unusual at a gathering like this, if there were many Marines in the audience, that you'd hear lots of hoorahs being yelled out. And yep, my mom's out there. Thank you, Mom. I appreciate that very much. So we're going to lead you. We're going to give you a chance to feel a little Marine this afternoon. We're going to ask for you to repeat it. Now it's hoorah. Say it slow. Hoorah. Oh, come on. How many people we got here? One more time. Hoorah! All right. If you see a Marine out in the street today and you hoorah to him, he expect him to hoorah back, and it'll tell him that you know the Corps, you appreciate what the Corps does, and a little bit of the Corps is inside each and every one of you. So thanks.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Carl. Beth? Why don't we bring Beth up for a second, General? Now, we all know Beth Knox is a proud Seattle 4 Rotarian, and I don't want to offend the governor over here, but I think she's really the Seafair queen year after year. Beth, We all know about Seafair, but recently Seafair's played a behind-the-scenes role in the fireworks at Lake Union, saving the fireworks, and also with a little parade of a football team, Seahawks. Both were last-minute affairs. Tell us what that's like.
Well, it's a little bit hectic. In both cases, though, I think that it was a result of relationships. I've worked really hard over my 9 years at Seafair to build strong relationships, not only with our city partners and agencies, fire, police, et cetera, but also community leaders and our vendors, the people that are the ones who come together to make it all work. So when the fireworks show was canceled at a very late date, last year, I had 2 calls, one from the mayor's office and one from the chamber president. And within 24 hours, we had a conference call going to secure funding from local sponsors, and major companies stepped up to support that. And then we were just into execution mode, but we only had 2 months to do it. So that was, it really made us rely on the skills that we already have in producing events, and we were able to pull that off quite successfully, and then we did it again this year, and we intend to continue that. So a little bit different with the Seahawks Victory Parade. That was much shorter notice. I will say that that we did have, the city had contacted us right after the Seahawks won the NFC Championship and said, okay, we need to start planning just in case. So we did it at a very high level, and we used the Torchlight Parade as a template. And again, went into go mode the second that they won the Super Bowl. We were on the phone securing all of the partners that could make it happen. It was interesting, though, that the Seahawks were the hardest to convince that they needed our help. And they said, we just need you to put out a few barricades. So the SPD and the city said, no, we need Seafair to do this. So, but it was a great partnership, and at the end of the day, the Seahawks said, we could not have done this without you. So it was a completely surreal experience to put on an event in such a short time frame for 750,000 people and have 0 arrests or incidents. It was spectacular.
Beth, I know the tradition is to say every year the Seafair show is unique, but you've convinced me this year it actually is unique. Can you explain why people who are thinking, I've done that before, they might want to reconsider?
Well, this year is very special. It is Seafair's 65th birthday. We're very excited about that. And not only do we have the great weather, thanks to my board chair, she's responsible for the weather, but we are so thrilled to have our U.S. Navy Blue Angels back in the skies over Lake Washington. And we also have some amazing aerobatic performers that are going to be performing along with the Blue Angels. We have the Patriots back, and they headlined our show last year. We have some aerobatic planes and performer civilians, and really interesting ones that you haven't seen before. We've got vintage planes that are coming from Paul Allen's Heritage Flying Museum. And then we also have a really great show from the Marines. And the Marines are doing a Marine Air Ground Task Force demonstration, or MAGTF for short. And they're bringing in multiple aircraft to do a really spectacular show, and really demonstrating the capabilities of the Marines. But they are fast roping down onto a barge, and just a lot of interesting things that showcases their capabilities, but it's something that you've never seen before. So just the air show alone, I think, is actually one of the best in the country this year. And then on top of that, we have, of course, our hydroplane racing and the festival components. Lots happening there this year.
Maybe it's just me who loves fireworks, but I think Seafair has done an extraordinary job with both the Seahawks and the fireworks at the last minute. So, Beth, what I want to ask is a real serious round of applause for this organization. But before we do that, I just want to say that I have become a believer. And I want to encourage all of you, because this is going to be a great year. Could we give Seafair a really serious round of applause here?
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, can we get our next 2 guests up on stage? Why don't you guys stay up there? You guys stay up there. We'll do a Q&A at the end. Now, I'm in a quandary for our next guest, who is both a governor and a queen. And there's been a conversation about which would take precedence, and unfortunately she didn't enlighten me. So, Chris, would you mind getting up to the mic for a second? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
If you believe Wikipedia, you always have to begin with that. According to Wikipedia, you were involved in the fourth closest election in United States history. The difference was 133 votes of 2.8 million cast, or 0.00473. Chris, what is it like to go through that experience?
It sucks. I'm really glad you brought that up. Something most people don't know, I will tell you a little side note on all of that. When the recounts were over, we had won by 128 votes. And then the lawsuit was brought, and 6 months later, the decision was made in Eastern Washington by the court there. En route, the argument of the other side was that the whole election should be thrown out because illegal felons had been voting. I kept thinking to myself, really? So let's assume, for argument's sake, illegal felons did vote. I was the Attorney General, and somehow or another, I don't think they're going to vote for the girl cop. Sure enough, depositions were taken, and they voted for Mr. Rossi, all of them, and therefore I won by 133 votes. I learned a lot from that, and it actually made me tougher as governor. And I say this in all honesty because it was a really down time for me in my life. But then little did I know I was going to greet the worst recession in history and have to make the most difficult decisions of my life in professional life. And, that whole exercise made me tough enough to be able to get through it. So I wished I'd never had to go through it, and I wish no one would go through it. But I did benefit from it, I have to admit.
2 weeks ago it was announced that you're taking a position at the Kennedy Center back at Harvard University. What are you hoping to accomplish back there?
Well, they've invited me to come back to be a fellow at the Institute of Politics in the Kennedy School. And my life has come full circle. I was in high school when John F. Kennedy was president and when, unfortunately, assassinated. And he had a call to service for those my age. And I answered that call. And I have never, ever regretted that call. And now, service doesn't mean you have to run for office or be a public employee. You can serve by being the executive director of Seafair. But it was a call to service. And so I am really, truly excited to go to the Kennedy School in the hopes that I can inspire those young men and women that they too should be answering the call to service, like our military people here today. And I thank God you've answered the call. And I want the youth of America to be excited again and not leave it to someone else. Get off the sidelines, get into the game, be a part of what America is all about, and that is a call to service. And that's what I hope and I can accomplish in some small way with some very bright and energetic young youth.
If you... Sorry, I have to ask this question. If you had a magic wand, what would you change about government, based on your experience?
Well, based on my experience, as I did multiple international trade missions, I observed the power in countries that do not have a democracy. Now, I'm all for our democracy, don't mistake me. But I often thought, just one day, 24 hours, if I could just have all that power and all that authority, look what I could get done. No, I think government really has to step up to the 21st century with a customer service mentality, out there understanding who it is that pays their wages and who they serve, and make sure that they accomplish what they need to accomplish in the most cost-efficient, effective way, and along the way, be damn proud that they are able to serve in government the people of the great state of Washington.
I would like to give you just a moment as the Queen. Your king, Marcus Trufant, is flying up there with the Blue Angels right now, so he couldn't be with us. But as a Husky who is not having his Cougar King here, is there anything you would like to say in absentia to the king?
Well, when you're absent, you lose. When you're not on the field to win the national championship or any football game, you lose. Well, so I'm a Husky. I'm here. Marcus, you lose, babe.
Thank you.
He is, I wish you all could get to know him like we have gotten to know him. We love him as a football player, right? But this is a great guy, an absolute terrific guy. Daddy of 4 beautiful little girls, proud as punch of those little girls, and he's just the absolute best. And he and I have struck up a real friendship, and I am very respectful of the fact that he and Jasmine are both Cougs, because as governor I was to everybody their advocate, including the Grand University at WSU. But I just want you all to know, beyond the prowess of a football player, is a wonderful, wonderful husband, dad, person in the state of Washington. So if you get a chance to see him, thank him not just for his football career, but thank him for being a great guy and a great citizen in our state.
Now, this is a rare opportunity. I've done a lot of facilitation. I've never been able to go from a governor/queen to a rock star. But would you come to the microphone, please? Lieutenant Commander David Tickle, who is a Blue Angel Flyer number 5. Can we have a nice round of applause for our Blue Angel? David, a little sharing here. I get nauseous on commercial jets when they do a bank turn. Could you talk about G-forces, stomach muscles, and how you keep down your last meal when you fly, please?
I'll try. For me, I have to have a full stomach before I go flying. If I don't eat, then I feel a little queasy or something like that. So for me, I need a full meal before I go flying. It could be a big pot of chili, a meatball sub. It doesn't really matter. I just need I need something in my stomach, or else I start to feel bad. But it's just when you do something for a lot, your body becomes acclimated to the environment. If you take someone who isn't used to flying, you put them up in a dynamic environment, then they may start to feel nauseous or something like that. But through repetition, our bodies get used to it, and we become accustomed to it.
Is there any surprises that you can share with us about what it's like to be in the cockpit as a Blue Angel?
I think one of the things that most people find surprising when I tell them is I'm actually scared of heights. There's something about being in an airplane that doesn't bother me, but if I went onto the roof of this building and looked over the edge, I start to shake a little bit, and I've got to get away from the edge. But I don't know what it is. Being in an airplane is just fine. I'm enclosed in the cockpit, but being outside on the roof or something like that doesn't work for me.
David, I'm feeling better about myself already. Thank you for that.
Good.
You joined the Blue Angels in 2010, and in 2013 you became let me get this right, a lead solo pilot.
Correct.
What does that mean exactly?
When I joined, I was the number 7 first as the narrator and the advanced VIP pilot, and then I became number 6 as the opposing solo, and now number 5 as the lead solo. As the lead solo, I am responsible for essentially integrating between the diamond and the solos. Jets 1 through 4, they fly in the diamond formation. They showcase the precision flying capabilities of the Hornet. And then 5 and 6, as the solo pilots, we demonstrate the maximum performance capabilities of the F-18. And part of the show, we alternate between diamond maneuvers and solo maneuvers. And I will adjust our timing based off of where the diamond is throughout their flight. Any number of things could go into, adjusting the profiles, whether it's winds or terrain or something like that. We may need to adjust the profiles. So it's a lot easier for me to adjust our timing as the solos, and I leave Boss with the diamond. He flies a constant profile for those guys, so he can be nice and smooth, so they can fly 18 inches from each other. So I will again, integrate our timing with them, as well as the timing for our hits. As we're flying towards each other, we're both going about 400 knots ground speed. So we have 800 knots of closure, and that's about 850 miles per hour. Me and number 6, the opposing solo, are flying towards each other. So I'm responsible for the timing. As we get in close, I'll say ready, hit it, and we'll execute whatever maneuver that we're doing.
I'm still contemplating what you just said. I would like to ask for one other round of applause for a very special reason. The Blue Angels all have today off, except for this dude who took his day off to be on with us. So can we have a round of applause for appreciation for joining us? Thank you. Why don't you go down? Do we have a couple questions? A couple questions for our panel? Anybody have a question for the panel? Question? Anna?
How do you qualify to become a Blue Angel? How do you move up through the ranks to get to that spot?
For the pilots, is this on? Okay. For the pilot side, you have to have a 1,250 flight hours. You have to be carrier qualified from a tactical background, meaning essentially flying jets. Once you meet those qualifications, then you can submit an application, assuming that your commanding officer is willing to let you go. But no one is told they have to go to the Blue Angels. It's an all volunteer organization. And so once you put in your application, you come to shows. It's a chance for us to get to know the applicant, for the applicant to get to know us as well. You know, sometimes people think that all we do is fly, but that's not the case. You know, we do community outreach is a big portion of what we do, and some people aren't comfortable speaking in front of large groups or anything like that. So, you know, it's a good chance for the applicants to come see what it is that we do, both at the air show and also in the community as well. And then once we receive all those applicants, we'll invite, we'll narrow it down to finalists. We'll bring them down to Pensacola, which is where we're based, and we'll do interviews and stuff like that. Thank you.
I have a question. What is your maximum altitude that you obtain when you're going straight up, and what's the lowest altitude that you get when you're going over the water? How low are you?
The lowest pass is the sneak pass that I'll do from the left. It is a sneak pass, so I can't tell you when it's going to happen, or else that'd ruin the surprise. But I'm down at 50 feet for that, and then the highest we go is 15,000 feet. When the opposing solo, he does a sneak pass from behind the crowd and goes vertical up to 15,000 feet.
Skip Cotkins, former president.
I can't imagine anything more fun than doing what you do, but you can't do it forever. So thinking a few years down the line, if you had a choice, would you rather be a commanding general or a state governor?
The generals advised me to pick governor. Well, if I were going to be a commanding general, I would have to, I guess, leave the Navy and either join the Marine Corps or the Army. So I don't know that I want to go that route right now. So maybe I could be, you know, a fleet admiral or something like that. But I don't know. I think the governorship might be something to look forward to as well. Purely speculating, though.
Here we go.
The rest of the Blue Angels. Could you tell us a little bit about the rest of the Blue Angels team that we don't get to see from the ground?
Absolutely. The heart and soul of the Blue Angels are enlisted men and women. They are the folks who get up early in the morning. They get there long before I ever get there. They make sure all the aircraft are prepped. It's not just the mechanics. We have public affairs, administration. There are all sorts of folks that go in to make it happen, but we couldn't do anything that we do without the blood, sweat, and tears of our enlisted folks. I know I saw a couple of enlisted folks here in the crowd. They truly make the military operate. We have the privilege of serving with them and alongside them, but they truly make it happen for us. And on the Blue Angels, a lot of people think that there's 6 Blue Angels. There's 133 people in the Blue Angels. 6 of us are fortunate enough to fly the aircraft in the demonstration, but it takes all 133 to make it happen.
Steve Crane, not a past president, but a great Rotarian.
Thanks, Tom. So I gather the terrain is important to your routines, and I'm just wondering, where are the more difficult places that you have to perform?
So flying in Chicago is pretty difficult. There's a lot of large buildings in the way. That can be a challenge. We were up in Milwaukee a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, the show was weathered out. The clouds never got above about 400 feet. But I had flown there previously, and it has some large buildings, but not quite like Chicago. The difference with Milwaukee is there's a lot of towers on top of the buildings that are difficult to see. And for some reason, the birds love to hang out right at Show Center as well. So, you know, when you go to a large city like Seattle or Chicago or Milwaukee, it's great. There are tons and tons of people that are able to see the show, but it usually means it's going to be a difficult show site as well. You know, a nice flat, not a tree or hill around is great, but that's usually in the middle of the country, you know. So we like to come to places like Seattle.
Okay, I'd like to ask a question of a couple of the other panelists. Beth, Seafair has a lot of moving parts. Can you give us a little peek under the covers of the complexity of your operation?
Oh, wow. Probably one of the things that is most interesting about it is that we are producing 75 events in 8 weeks. And the majority of the folks, I think, many of them believe that Seafair just happens. And I know that because I've had people say that. There's a company that does this? And I literally said, did you think it just happened? And he said, well, yeah. And but actually, the flip side of that is that's kind of the magic of Seafair, is that that people just know it's going to happen, they know it's going to be there, and that they get to just show up and enjoy it. To me, that's a successful year when we've done that and haven't given them any reason to worry about whether it's going to happen. So that's one thing, but the challenging part is with all of the logistics, we can do all the planning in the world, but then we have to be ready to adjust based on the people that are part of the festival. Examples are our last year's king, Neptune. He lives with Parkinson's disease. So we would have to adjust our schedule and the things that we ask him to do based on his physical capabilities. And then other years, we have our King Neptune that gets surprise flight with the Blue Angels. And so then we have to roll with that. And those are just a couple of examples of the changes that often happen to us. And as somebody just was saying to me the other night, that things are not going badly, they're just not necessarily going as we had originally planned. And I think that happens a lot. We have to be ready to roll with it and be flexible at all times within that very short window of 8 weeks and make it all look like it just happened.
Thank you, Beth. A question both for the General and for the Queen. You both have very high positions of authority. Give us a glimpse of a surprising aspect that you found from your job. What would surprise us?
I think what would probably surprise you would be the amount of time that I spend working with young people, young men and women who are in the Marine Corps, who have either are trying to better themselves through some of the programs we offer, whether it be commissioning programs or education programs, and two, some of the young men and women, unfortunately, who find that they have strayed off the path and have perhaps not lived up to our standards. I, as a commanding general, spent a lot of time working with those young folks to get them back focused in the right direction, make them better citizens, make them better Marines, and so if they do return to civilian life later on, that they contribute to their communities, and they learn from that experience of having served. I always remind myself that some 70% of the Marine Corps is under the age of 25, and those are young men and women who are just starting out, just learning how to be a mature individual, how to take on responsibility, and you have to be patient, and you have to ensure that you're a teacher, that you're a mentor, and you're an instructor, and work with them, and remember yourself at that age, and remember some of the mistakes that you made.
So on a professional level, I think people oftentimes don't appreciate how demanding the job actually can be, and for me was. It is a 24/7, and if you're going to become the governor of the state of Washington, you need to be prepared to work 7 days a week and be ready to answer the call at 2 in the morning that you've lost a state patrol officer or you've got a crisis on your hands or something of that nature. And when you hit the worst recession in history, I can't begin to tell you from an emotional standpoint how much toll it really takes. So I really have, throughout the whole process, garnered more respect for people who run for office, win or lose, because of their willingness to step into the fray, their willingness to serve, and I am much more appreciative of anybody who serves in public office today. On a more personal level, what I think you might find a little surprising, if you've ever been to the governor's mansion in the state of Washington, it's a wonderful building. The history of it is just amazing. You're absorbed by the library in it and all of the history that is the foundation of it. But if you happen to be governor, you find yourself located in a very large mansion, living in a space that was actually much smaller than the first apartment Mike and I had when we were newly married. That I think you probably think can't be, but that is the truth. You don't go into the first level quarters unless there's a big celebration reception going on. Otherwise, you're not there. You don't go on the top floor. You don't go on the basement. You go on the second floor, and then you only go into a quarter of the second floor, which is where the governor family lives. And the kitchen, which was fairly new when we got there, you should see it. I think mobile homes have as big a kitchen as we did. But anyway, it's a great building. It was a fantastic opportunity to serve. And I just hope that we continue to have people who will step up and serve in public office.
Now, what I want to do is, Governor, in a second, I want to have you pass the microphone down the Ray and let everybody make a final comment, whatever they want to say. But I want to start with you for a second. My understanding is any Rotarian who wants to see a picture of a certain granddaughter after this meeting would have that possibility. Is that true?
Absolutely. 20 months old, Audrey Christine is the light of Mike and my life. We take care of her every Friday. And you know, if you're not a grandparent, I got to tell you, everybody told me how great it was, and I thought, yes, seriously, I got to be governor. How great could this be? It is the greatest invention on the face of the earth. If you got to look forward to it if you're not, and if you are, I bet you know what I'm talking about. But before I give up the mic, if I could please say to Beth and to the whole team at Seafair, I think Seafair, I have come to appreciate it so much more being given this opportunity to serve as Queen Alcyone. And Dorothy was the first Queen Alcyone, and set us all on the right path, Dorothy. But you know, if you could get into the parade and sit in a car like Mike and I got the chance to do, and feel the community spirit, and see the diversity of our community. I mean, having served as governor, I thought I knew it and understood it. It is amazing to see the enthusiasm of little kids, to see everybody come together. That makes us stronger. That makes us better. That's what community is all about. So thank you for being a part of the celebration of Seafair, and to Beth and her team and everybody who makes Seafair possible every single year, and particularly with our men in uniform and our Blue Angels and all those who are participating. Thank you. This is what it's like to live in the great state of Washington, in particular, be here in Seattle.
Thank you.
Thank you, Queen Alcyone. I appreciate that. And one of my, I think, final parting things is the joy that I get out of the relationships the people that I meet and work with are very special. And so for Seafair's 65th anniversary this year, we have one other special element at Seafair Weekend Festival this weekend, and that is on Saturday night. We're going to do a concert in Genesee Park. It's kind of the rising stars from the Seattle music community in honor of our city of music here. And we will follow that with a nighttime pyrotechnic air show, followed by a fireworks show on Lake Washington. So come down and see us on Saturday or anytime this weekend. We'd love to have you down at Seafair.
Thank you.
Let me also thank the city of Seattle and the state of Washington for inviting the Marines and the sailors to come up here and participate in this tremendous event. I'm excited to sit next to a Blue Angel. My gosh. I'm sure that my oldest daughter is going to ask me when I get home, what was it like? Let me just say that, you know, I'm a product of the post-Vietnam military, a time in our nation's history when men and women in uniform perhaps were not as appreciated. I think that has changed, and it's events like this that really mean a lot to our young men and women, our young sailors and our young Marines, who when they walk through the city and in uniform, and they're thanked for their service, and people shake hands with them and ask to have pictures taken with them. What that does for those youngsters' morale can't be described. We ask an awful lot of our Marines and sailors these days, an awful lot of sacrifices. Many of the Marines and sailors that you see on the street here have recently returned from floats, time away from their families. We ask a tremendous amount of sacrifice from them. We don't give them a whole lot in return. But when they can come out and meet the public and have the public pat them on the back and thank them for their service, I tell you, the fire in their eyes and the fire in their bellies, it's absolutely tremendous. I can't tell you how much I appreciate as a senior officer what you all do to show your respect and your thanks to probably the best generation of youngsters we've had in uniform during my time. So again, thank you all very, very much for what you do, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, John.
one of the first things you learn is you never take the microphone after the senior officer speaks, so kind of set up for failure here. But just like the General said, we want to thank Seattle, the community, Beth, your staff, everyone that goes in to make this happen. We couldn't do it without communities all across America, and it's truly an honor for us to represent the Navy and the Marine Corps, but also all services across the country to the American public. You know, a lot of folks don't get to see their Navy and Marine Corps operate on a daily basis. So, you know, the average taxpayer doesn't get to spend time on an aircraft carrier or ride in a tank or do any of the number of things that you know, our men and women do in uniform. So for us to be able to bring the military to the backyards all across America is truly a humbling experience, and we couldn't do it without communities just like Seattle. So on behalf of all the Blue Angels, thank you for all the support that you've given all the folks in uniform. And just like General said, there's a lot of sailors and Marines walking around, both with attached to the ships that are in port here and as well as with the Blue Angels. So please shake their hand, tell them thanks for their service. They'll certainly appreciate it. And again, thank you.
Thank you. Tom. Knighting. Mr. Tom, come here. You're going to be knighted. Could I have every former king, queen, or Seafair board chair to come up and be part of a picture as our president gets knighted? All the former kings, queens, and board chairs come up here. Tom, queen, do it. There you go.
I think it's working. It just takes a minute to warm up. So, yes, it's true, President Betts. One of the very special traditions that Seafair has, and I know you know, we have lots of quirky, fun traditions that is the pageantry of Seafair and what makes it unique and special. But one of those is our royalty and their ability, their power that they have to knight people. And I should just say that the reason that we select individuals for king and queen, first off, is based on their contribution back to the region and the impact that they've had in making this a better place to live. So that's one of the first criteria that we look for in selecting our king and queens. And of course, Miss Seafair, this is Jasmine Goodwin. She was just recently crowned, just before the Torchlight Parade. And she was brought in, she was selected for her academic skills and her public speaking and her talents in creative expression, as well as the impact that she is going to make on this region. And we're excited to have her part of the Seafair royal family. We have an opportunity here today to use our knighting powers to recognize another individual who has made a positive impact on this region. So I will turn it over to our royalty.
So, yes. So, Rotary President Tom Betts, are you ready for the royal knighting?
I'm not sure.
I, Seafair Queen Alcyone, as a token of my great esteem for you and the recognition of your ability to do honor to the illustrious position, do hereby appoint you Seafair Royal on condition that you will kneel before me. This is the funnest part of my queenship. So I'm going to ask Ms. Seafair if she would please recognize you in your knighting today.
Tom has been the president and CEO of Topper's European Floral Design for 21 years, delivering high-end design aesthetic. Delivering high-end aesthetic with responsive customer service. He is a long-standing Rotarian, previously serving as president of Redmond Rotary and membership vice president of Seattle Rotary 4 Club before being elected president of Seattle 4. Tom was also named Rotary District Rotarian of the Year in 1996. Tom Betts, I hereby declare you Baron of Blossoms and Wrangler of Rotarians.
So at the parade with this sword, some kids asked me if I could take off people's heads. You'll be reassured that I said, no, I didn't believe in that. But so I would like to anoint you as knight on condition that you promise me that you will bring me flowers every Valentine's Day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Sir Tom Betts. Now, if you would, please go forth and spread the Seafair message with good cheer and community spirit throughout Puget Sound. Sir Betts. Congratulations.
Can we have a big round of applause for all the participants?
Seattle Rotary Online is made possible in part by a grant from First Choice Health, working with the Washington Health Information Collaborative to use technology to bring better health care to patients throughout the Pacific Northwest. First Choice Health.